Hey history buffs and gamers, welcome back to Historically Gaming. I'm your host, the Fit Historian, and today we've got a story that's honestly stranger than any game I've ever played. We're diving into the life of a guy who was a genuine rocket science pioneer, helped found JPL. Yeah, that JPL. And also happened to be a devoted follower of a pretty controversial occultist. Buckle up because we're talking about the one and only Jack Parsons. Now, when you think of the people who got us to space, you probably picture some serious buttoned-up scientists in lab coats, right? Well, Jack Parsons was a little different. Born Marvel Whiteside Parsons in 1914, he later went by John. From a young age, he was absolutely captivated by science fiction. Think Jules Verne, those classic adventure stories, and Hugo Gernsback's amazing stories. This stuff really lit a fire in him, a desire to reach for the stars, literally. And it wasn't just reading about it. By the time he was 14, Jack was in his backyard with his buddy Edward Foreman, trying to build rockets. We're talking gunpowder from cherry bombs, aluminum foil, and get this, Parsons even suggested using glue to hold it all together. Apparently, their experiments turned the backyard into something resembling a war zone. You gotta admire the dedication though, even if the neighbors probably weren't too thrilled. Now, formal education wasn't exactly Parsons' strong suit, partly due to financial struggles during the Great Depression. He bounced around a bit, going to Pasadena Junior College, Stanford, and USC, but never finished a degree. But this didn't stop him from learning. He landed a job at the Hercules Powder Company, starting as a janitor, but quickly working his way up. This is where he really got his hands dirty, learning all about explosives and their properties. This practical experience would be absolutely crucial later on. Fast forward a bit, and in 1934, Parsons, along with his old pal Edward Foreman, and a Caltech PhD candidate named Frank Molina, formed the Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory, or GALKIT, rocket research group. They got some support from Caltech's chairman Theodore von Karman. Their early experiments, often conducted in the Arroyo Seco Canyon outside Pasadena, were considered so dangerous they earned the nickname Suicide Squad. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But these guys were serious. They were determined to make rockets a reality, even when most of the scientific community thought it was just cheesy science fiction crap. Parsons was a key player in all of this. He's credited with inventing the first rocket engine to use a castable composite rocket propellant, which was a huge breakthrough. This paved the way for more powerful and stable rockets. In 1942, this group even co-founded the Aerojet Engineering Corporation to develop JATO, Jet-Assisted Takeoff Technology, for the military during World War II. And get this, in 1943, the GALKIT Rocket Research Group officially became the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. So yeah, the guy who was blowing up stuff in his backyard with cherry bombs was actually a founding father of NASA's JPL. Talk about an underdog story. Okay, so we've established that Parsons was brilliant, albeit unconventional, scientist. But here's where things get really interesting. Around 1939, Parsons converted to Thelema, a religious and philosophical movement founded by the English occultist Aleister Crowley. Now, Crowley was a pretty controversial figure himself, often called the wickedest man in the world by the tabloids. Thelema's core principles, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will, really resonated with Parsons' rebellious spirit. Soon after Parsons and his first wife, Helen Northrop, joined Crowley's Ordo, Templi, Orientis, or OTO, an international organization with roots in Freemasonry and occultism, Parsons quickly rose through the ranks, becoming the leader of the California branch known as the Agape Lodge in 1942. His Pasadena mansion on Orange Grove Avenue became the center of the OTO in California, known as the Parsonage, or sometimes the Grim Gardens. This place apparently hosted some pretty wild gatherings involving everything from sex orgies to magic rituals and drug experimentation. Parsons was even a regular contact with Crowley himself, who seemed to have a complicated view of his American follower. Perhaps the most infamous part of Parsons' occult life was his involvement in the Babylon working rituals with none other than L. Ron Hubbard in 1945 and 1946. Yeah, that L. Ron Hubbard, the future founder of Scientology. That guy. These were some intense Enochian magic rituals, involving some pretty out there stuff, all intended to invoke an incarnation of the Ptolemaic goddess Babylon. It really highlights just how deeply Parsons was immersed in these occult beliefs. Now, Parsons' personal life was just as colorful. He married his high school sweetheart Helen Northrop in 1935. But their relationship got complicated after they got into the OTO. Ptolemai's philosophy of do what thou wilt sometimes led to exploring non-monogamous relationships. In 1941, Parsons started an affair with Helen's younger half-sister, Sarah Northrop, who also went by the name Betty, which was apparently accepted within the OTO. This eventually led to his divorce from Helen. And in 1946, he married Marjorie Cameron, an artist and fellow occultist. And then there's the whole saga with L. Ron Hubbard. They started off bonding over their shared interest in the occult, with Hubbard even participating in the Babylon working. But things took a dark turn when Hubbard, along with Sarah Northrop, allegedly swindled Parsons out of his life savings in a fraudulent yacht business venture. Hubbard also had a relationship with Sarah, like I mentioned, adding another layer of drama. It was a messy situation, to say the least, and Parsons ended up feeling betrayed by someone he considered a magical partner. Back at the Parsonage, Parsons created a real bohemian haven. He rented rooms to artists, occultists, and all sorts of unconventional folks, explicitly saying he preferred people who rejected mainstream norms. Stories circulated about wild parties, sex orgies, and open drug use. Parsons himself was known to use cocaine, methamphetamine, and opiates. And he even brewed his own absinthe illegally. Adding to his eccentric image, he apparently used to recite odes to the Greek god Pan before rocket launches, considering it good luck. What's truly fascinating about Parsons is how he seemed to seamlessly blend his scientific pursuits with his occult beliefs. He saw both rocketry and magic as ways to push beyond earthly limitations and explore the unknown. He genuinely believed in Ptolemaic magic and even thought there might be a connection to quantum physics. He'd perform ritual magic alongside his groundbreaking work at JPL and Aerojet. That image of him reciting Aleister Crowley's Hymn to Pan before a rocket test really encapsulates this unique blend. Unsurprisingly, Parsons' lifestyle and beliefs led to a lot of controversy. His association with Crowley and the OTO, often labeled a sex cult, and Parsons himself as an antichrist, created a negative perception in the scientific community and the public. This was a major factor in his dismissal from JPL and Aerojet in 1944. They saw his occult activities as a disreputable and a potential security risk, especially during wartime. His reputation for dangerous lab practices and ignoring safety protocols didn't help either. Remember the Suicide Squad nickname? It wasn't just for show. Later, during the Red Scare, he faced accusations of espionage and being a Marxist, which cost him his security clearance and effectively ended his rocketry career. Even early on, his rocket experiments were considered too dangerous by some. And of course, the goings-on at the Parsonage raised eyebrows and drew criticism from neighbors and authorities. Tragically, Jack Parsons died young at the age 37 on June 17, 1952. A powerful explosion ripped through his home laboratory in Pasadena. The official ruling was an accident, likely caused by him dropping a can of mercury fulminate while preparing it for a film set. At the time, having trouble finding aerospace work, he was working with explosives for Hollywood productions. He even had a rush order the day before. But the circumstances have always been debated. Many of his associates suspected suicide or even murder. Some say he was incredibly careful with explosives, making an accident seem unlikely. The possibility of suicide was considered, but his reported last words were, "But I'm not finished yet," which suggested otherwise. There are theories involving Howard Hughes, concerned about industrial secrets or the military, worried about him leaving the country with sensitive information. One particularly intriguing theory links his death to his 1938 testimony against a corrupt LAPD captain he helped convict with his explosives expertise. The captain was released from prison just days before Parsons died. Even his widow, Marjorie Cameron, claimed the explosion came from under the floorboards, hinting at foul play. Despite all these theories, no definitive proof of suicide or murder has ever been found. In the years since his death, Parsons' legacy has been reevaluated. While largely unknown during his life, he's now increasingly recognized for his crucial role in rocket engineering and the founding of JPL. For a long time, his scientific contributions were overshadowed by his controversial personal life and occult involvement. But historians of Western esotericism now see him as a significant figure in bringing Thelema to North America. His life story has inspired several biographies, most notably George Pendle's Strange Angel, which was even turned into a TV series. This renewed interest shows a shift in how we view unconventional beliefs and the complex relationship between science and culture. Some historians emphasize his groundbreaking scientific work, while others focus on his roles in the counterculture and the history of occultism. Even NASA has indirectly acknowledged his contributions by naming a small crater on the far side of the moon after him. His work on JADO technology during World War II is credited with saving thousands of lives, and his invention of asphalt-based solid rocket fuel is considered a major turning point in rocketry. So, what do we make of Jack Parsons? He was a brilliant scientist, no doubt, whose innovations were absolutely vital to the early space program. But he was also a deeply committed occultist who lived a life that defied the norms of his time. He was a paradox, a man who reached for the stars in more ways than one. His story is a reminder that history is full of complex and fascinating figures who don't always fit neatly in our preconceived boxes. What do you guys think? Was Parsons a misunderstood genius, a dangerous eccentric, or a bit of both? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the wild life of Jack Parsons, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Historically Gaming for more unexpected stories from the past. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!